Am I the for publicly telling my ex-worker that I don't like them? I, 32, female, ran into an ex-worker, Sarah, 31, female, at a bar while I was out with friends celebrating my birthday. We worked together for 2 years at a fast food restaurant. I left this job in January 2025. She was a shift lead and I've never liked her. I didn't like her management style or her personality. She came up to me at the bar and we had a 10-ish minute conversation. I thought it was cordial and polite. She was mostly asking me questions about my new job. She asked if I could recommend her for a job at my new company.
Absolutely not.
I got a job at a call centre. Nothing glamorous. I told her that I wasn't comfortable with that. She brushed it off with a bad joke. I ended the conversation and walked to the table my friends were at, and Sarah followed me. I didn't notice until I got to the table and she sat down next to me. My friends introduced themselves and I, without thinking, said something along the lines of, I don't like you. Can you please leave? I have autism and I could tell that was not the correct thing to say. Everyone seemed uncomfortable and Sarah was visibly shocked and upset. My friends were shocked and confused. They assumed that Sarah was a friend or someone I invited to the table. They had zero context of who Sarah is. Sarah made a scene and told me that I was a rude bitch and a bunch of other things. She said that I embarrassed her. She embarrassed herself by following me to the table uninvited. And yes, she knew it was my birthday. I do feel bad now and know that I could have formulated a polite response. But she's a former co-worker and an unpleasant one. I have many stories about her, but the worst examples is that she made jokes about my autism and deafness multiple times. She is fake nice and her friendship style is bullying people. She has a really icky vibe. I don't know what Sarah wanted from me. I wasn't going to hang out with her, especially not on my birthday. So am I the for telling her bluntly that I don't like her?
No. Okay, the delivery could have been a lot better, but otherwise, no. Why did she follow? You're right. Why did she follow you to the table? That's weird, if nothing else, because that's actually what it's sounding like, that she's not actually aware that she herself is the and not you. Am I the for not telling my ex about my one night stand while we were separated? So my 24 female, ex 22 male, and I've been together for almost a year before breaking up in November. The issue stemmed from him snooping through my phone and finding people from my past who I hadn't talked to since before I knew him, along with other extremely sensitive issues. I'll happily go into detail if needed. I didn't see it as a problem at the time because I had no interest in those people anymore, and I was deeply in love with him. Our relationship was intense and fast, and I was his first girlfriend, and I had previously been in a 6-7 year relationship before, which was extremely controlling and childish. After we broke up, I took it really hard and I was in a dark place, depressed and not wanting to do anything. A few weeks later, my friends convinced me to go out to a local bar. There, I ran into a guy I had hooked up with in the past. We were just talking at first, but after a few drinks, he ended up coming back to mine and we were intimate. I regretted it immediately. I fell asleep and it felt like a huge mistake. When I woke up, he was sleeping with me. I was completely out of it and never gave permission for him to do this while I was asleep. A few days later, I realized that what happened wasn't okay, and I promised myself it would never happen again, and if I bumped into him again, I would confront him. Fast forward a few months and my ex and I started talking again. We've been on and off for 3 months now, and he asked me to be honest if anything had happened while we were broken up, because he wanted to know if he could move past it. I panicked and lied. I told him nothing happened, mainly because I felt embarrassed and I didn't want him to know about that one night stand. We're from a small town and I didn't want it to become a thing. I just wanted to move on from it. He previously in the relationship interrogated me regarding body count, each situation. He now knows everything about me, and I'd beg him to stop asking me because that would never be a good thing to know in a new relationship. He shamed me and constantly interrogated me afterwards. I absolutely hated myself. There was a long while where I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror without feeling so disgusted in myself. Last week, I bumped into the guy from the one night stand and we ended up having an awkward conversation with me confronting him. I told him how what happened wasn't okay and he apologized, and long story short, he awkwardly said, "Friends?" I was just like, yeah, whatever. At this point, I don't like the guy and just wanted to move past it and have no issues. I know this isn't the right way to deal with it since reflecting. He tried to continue the conversation, but I wasn't interested. I told him I was happy with my ex and then I walked away. However, someone told my ex we had spoken and he called me, which led to an alcohol-fueled argument. I was really drunk and defensive because I still didn't want him to know. But after that conversation with said guy, I felt like a weight had been lifted. A few days later, after more pressure from my ex, I finally told him everything, what happened and exactly what was said during my conversation with the guy. He was clearly upset and felt betrayed that I hadn't told him sooner. Instead of just being hurt, he turned it on me, accusing me of lacking self-respect for having a one-night stand in the first place. Then he admitted that after we broke up, he had slept with someone else and had also been involved with a girl who had a boyfriend. It suddenly made sense why he would constantly ask, "Are you sure you've never been with a guy who had a girlfriend?" I would always answer honestly, "No, of course not." But he'll never believe me, always replying with something like, "Are you sure? Because it seems like something you'll do." At the time, I didn't even want to know about his hookups. I came from the mindset that since we weren't together, it wasn't my business. Now he's saying I'm in the wrong because I'm a girl and I wasn't in control of the situation, while he claims he was always in control with the other girls he slept with because he's a guy. 2 nights ago, he became aggressive and physically threatening when he thought I wasn't telling him the whole truth. I was terrified and I'm still processing what happened. He later apologized, but I'm just numb right now, trying to make sense of how he could act that way. Saying I was just friends with the guy who I had the one-night stand with shows how little self-respect I have. He keeps comparing the situations and making me feel like I'm worse because I'm a girl, and the fact that I lied to him and how I navigate the situation. So, am I the for not telling him about the one-night stand? Furthermore, a week has passed since I completely cut him off after a lot of back and forth. He's already shown up at my workplace trying to talk and smooth things over so we can be in good terms. But I know the real reason. He's terrified that I'll tell my friends and family what he did because his reputation means everything to him and the truth would ruin it completely. Everything still feels raw. I'm still trying to process how someone I love so deeply could speak to me in such a vile way, could be so terrifying and physically threatening. In that moment, I was genuinely scared for my life. I appreciate you taking the time to read this, and I'm open to any questions you may have.
So when I read this, I actually sent an email. And the gist of that email was, I know a story very similar to this. And unfortunately, that girl's not around to tell her story. She's actually been unalived. The signs are all there. And you need to speak to the police. You need to go to the police and you need to get a restraining order on your ex-boyfriend.
Yep.
Am I the asshole for walking out of the hospital after hearing my wife's diagnosis? Ooh. I, 33, got a call from the ER on Friday saying that my wife, 32, drove herself there because of searing pelvic pain. I'm on a business trip until Saturday, but I drive back in time to be there Saturday morning before she woke up. A while after she wakes up, the doctor comes in. My wife says to stay with her, so I say okay. He takes a deep breath and said that from the transvaginal ultrasound and CT scan results, she has ovarian cancer. My wife starts sobbing, but at first I stay still because I don't even know what to make of it. My wife asks what that means for her, and he says that she'll likely at least need a full hysterectomy and they'd have to remove the fallopian tubes as well as the ovaries. That news jolted me from my chair because the doctor was effectively telling me that she wouldn't be able to have kids after this. And after years of work, I thought we'd finally have a family. I'm overwhelmed with emotions of anger, not just anger at the disease, but pent-up anger from the fact that I had begged her to have kids since we were 26, but she refused for her career. And now, instead of becoming a real family, I didn't even know if she would remain the woman that I married. Whether the last picture of us together would be the last time I'd remember her looking beautiful, young, and carefree. Because the wife that was in front of me was already a different person. My wife started to grab my hand and say, "We'll fight this and we'll adopt." But I shook my head and turned to walk out the door. I still had my suitcase in the car, so I drove to a hotel because I didn't know if my wife was going to end up being discharged or what. At the hotel, I was at least able to get out of a reactive mode, but I was still so disappointed that our dream of a family was over. I was finally able to get a grasp on all of my emotions and feel more like my normal self in that I knew exactly what I felt about every aspect and how I would react to it from here on out. I get a call from my mother-in-law saying that if I was at a hotel or wherever else, I should just stay there. Am I the asshole for walking out? I admit it was done on impulse, but this diagnosis just sliced my life and my wife's life wide open. I wasn't going to expel the cancer if I stayed that night, but I did at least make myself aware of my situation. And I feel I have a right to be angry that my hope of biological kids, the only kind I ever wanted, is rapidly fading away.
Yes, you absolutely are the asshole for abandoning your wife in the moment that she found out that she has a cancer that could kill her. And I don't know if the medical team was not forthright and did not educate you on the severity of ovarian cancer.
Am I the asshole? My wife became emotionally abusive since giving birth. She topped it off by cheating. Now she is begging me to reconsider.
That's it?
Just
No.
triple way. No, we have more.
I was like, oh my God.
I, 28 male, have been married to my wife, 27 female, for 2 years. Together for 4. 14 months ago, we had our first baby. She hasn't gone back to work, and I've been the sole breadwinner. Her choice. And since she gave birth, my wife has become a nightmare to deal with. She became irritable, angry at me for the smallest reasons, complains about everything. Everything is somehow my fault. All she does is hold the baby all day, even if he didn't need to be held, and scroll through her phone. Everything else is my responsibility. We haven't had sex for over a year and a half, and whenever I try to address it, she lashes out at me because even though I'm the only one who works and I do all of the housework, yet I'm insensitive and don't care about her. I haven't brought up sex until 3 months postpartum even. I was basically her emotional punching bag. I tried to get her therapy. I tried to address her behavior, but all I get is more verbal abuse. I hated our marriage. I wanted to end it, but I was so scared at the idea of co-parenting. I was scared of the social backlash of ending a marriage with a child involved. And also, a small part of me was hoping that somehow things would get well and back together. Well, last month, she made it a lot easier to end it. She told me she was going to a bar with her friends, and she came back home at 4 a.m. drunk. As soon as she slept, I snooped through her phone and found texts between her and a random guy implying that she went to a hotel room with him. I was almost relieved when I saw them. I can finally walk away from this miserable marriage without any guilt or regret. The first thing I did was take a DNA test for the baby. He is mine. As soon as the results came back, I informed my wife that I'm aware of her infidelity and our marriage is over. She broke down crying. She begged me for my forgiveness. She tried to use every excuse in the book: postpartum depression, past trauma, alcohol. She promised to make it up to me. She said she would do whatever I want, said that she doesn't want our family to break, but I wasn't having any of it. I've already hated this marriage, and the infidelity was just the nail in the coffin. We still live together, and she has been begging me to reconsider, promising me everything under the sun. But I have no intention of reconsidering, and I told her she is not allowed to speak to me anymore. Am I the asshole?
No, I don't think you are. And I say that with like a lot of compassion for postpartum depression, postpartum personality changes, even postpartum psychosis.
Yeah.
But there seems to be an element of this that is just beyond that.